I mentioned in my introductory slide at the bottom, there was a facility called LDRA Vault that we have developed. And LDRA Vault is coming in the new version in the middle part of this year. And what LDRA Vault will enable you to do is to be able to publish on an internal SQL database, an internal website, the ability to see what level of testedness your team has achieved and how you are meeting your certification goals. LDRA is very successful in the desktop environment for developers and testers to be able to gather the information that they require to show that they are adherent to a particular certification standard. But it's also very useful to be able to share that with the team and gather all of that information to be able to present it to a certification authority. And LDRA Vault is this SQL database and software service that enables you to publish this information on internal servers. So here we have the ability to create our own projects that we can click into, and these projects will be built for you automatically from that LDRA's TB Build import facility that I documented at the beginning for you. And we can upload information on a user-by-user basis, so we can see how we are achieving our goals and how our team members are helping us to achieve our goals as well. And we'll have all of our uploads of our test results that have been generated by this particular user, Graham Hughes, against a particular compiler validation suite that we're analyzing here. And then other people will be able to go in and see how many files we've analyzed, how many violations we have, what levels of code coverage have we achieved, and drill into the results that have been generated by one or more users. We can also drill into reports on file-by-file basis, function-by-function basis, to look and see where our standards violations are, where our security issues are, where our test issues are, what we've achieved, and possibly also, almost importantly, what we have yet to achieve as a team. And in this instance here, we're looking at unit tests that we put through. These have been generated by TB Extreme, and we can see on a test case basis what my colleague Graham Hughes has achieved as part of his test process. We also place into the system all of the LDRA reports that are generated when you analyze your code. So when you've done your analysis and you've created your tests, you can upload them into LDRA Vault, and they are there for you as part of your audit process. So you don't have to worry about keeping documents on your machines. They'll all be stored for you together in one local place. It's very good, again, as Jonathan mentioned, for the DevSecOps environment where things are constantly changing, constantly running our tests, making sure that we're keeping ourselves organized and up to date. So just go back to that slide, hopefully. Yeah, so you can see here, we have the LDRA reports that we can click on, and these reports that some of you who are using version 10 might find familiar, they're all there for you and all logged and all secure for you in LDRA Vault. So it's a very exciting new facility that we're hoping that our customers are going to be able to do, especially with people these days are often working from home. They're not necessarily all in the same office anymore. You might have different sites. We want to be able to use our secure internal networks to be able to store this information and share it amongst team members. That's LDRA Vault. Then we have, as I mentioned, additions to the TB Extreme tool. Some of you will be using this. TB Extreme is an ability to very quickly generate unit and module tests for code within our systems. And we can run those tests in a host target environment or in a host-host environment. And those tests are excellent to be able to stress test our applications, create robustness tests, create boundary value analysis tests, partition tests, and TB Extreme Plus gives us additional facilities to help us to do that. Our test case generation, we have created a new type of test within TB Extreme Plus. With TB Extreme as standard, you get standard extreme tests or tabular extreme tests. And these can generate many test cases for you to exercise your units. With the new facility, we have linear extreme tests, which is particularly suited to allow us to apply min, mid, max values against all of our code data items in the unit under test. So we're looking to capture that functionality, stress the application, gather the code coverage measurements, but do it with focusing on mid-max values for our data that we put into our units under test. Linear extreme tests are very suitable for that. And you can see here with this example here, we have our mid-max values, our max values here on the left-hand side, our minimum values, and in this case, 0 being the middle value. And the tool will enable us to look at this and automatically generate those test cases for you. And when we're generating these test cases, we're stressing our applications. We may want to be able to say that we may want to create many hundreds or even thousands of test cases for our units under test. Obviously, if you create thousands of test cases, they need to be run maybe in your host environment or maybe in a target environment. But running thousands of tests may take time. So we may decide to ask the tool to tell us which of those tests contribute to code coverage. We may have 3,000 tests, of which only 1,500 actually contribute to our code coverage. So we can run the tool through, and the profile analysis capability will enable us to run our tests and through code coverage measure which tests are adding to the coverage that we achieve, which ones contribute to code coverage and which ones are not. If our goal is to measure the highest level of code coverage, we don't have to run all of those tests in the future. And the tool will tell us which ones we no longer need. So in this particular example here, we might have initially 32 tests to exercise this function. But out of these 32 tests, actually only 6 of them contribute to that code coverage of 100%. So if you want to rerun those tests and still achieve 100% code coverage, we don't need to run 32 tests. We can only run 6 and still get our 100% code coverage. So TB Extreme Plus will automatically tell us which tests we can keep and which tests we no longer need to run to achieve that level of code coverage. Hopefully that makes sense, and you can see that in a regression process, that can save you some time, and you'll still be getting the same levels of code coverage. When we are, of course, LDRA, we are all about source code analysis. So we are doing a deep control flow analysis of the source code. And one of the things we're also doing now is analyzing the assignment expressions that you may have in your code as well. And as part of that process, we'll be able to look at those expressions, and we'll be able to work out for our unit tests, what test data do they require to be able to hit a true and false value. So in this particular instance, we have a reasonably simple expression, which is return equal value is greater than 10. And we can therefore automatically generate our test cases where we're giving value, the function, the variable value, the value of 10, or we're going to give it something that is greater than 10. In this instance, we're giving it 11, and we'll be able to automatically go through the code, look at those expressions, and give you meaningful test data values as part of the TB Extreme process. So you don't have to be looking at those expressions and going, oh, okay, is value greater than 10? Well, let's put in 10 to get one aspect of the true-false value, and let's put in 11 to get the other. The tool will do that for you automatically as part of your robustness and stress tests that TB Extreme can create for you. And we'll also do those for return values as well. Is this working? Yeah. Can you give me the next slide, please? Next slide. Yeah, this isn't working. Go on. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. We can also do this. This is the right slide. We can also do this for functional requirements for expressions in return expressions as well. So the tool is going through and doing a very deep analysis on your code to enable you to be able to automatically create those TB Extreme tests for you. Oh, I'm going backwards now. And then finally with TB Extreme, we have the new capabilities for users to be able to generate their own sets of test types and their own data values as well. So in this particular slide, we're looking at creating our own sets of tests, which in this instance are going to focus on mid-max generation. And you can program TB Extreme to do certain types of tests that are going to be useful to your organization. And you can share this amongst all of your colleagues. So you can all use the same settings within TB Extreme very simply and easily. And those settings can be defined to be of use to your company and the sorts of tests that you are wanting TB Extreme to help you to create. So in this instance, we're focusing on mid-max generation, but they could also be for other facilities as well. And we can also utilize our own specified sorts of test data values with a user data capability as well. So you're creating the data dictionary that you're utilizing for your tests, not only on the analysis that LDRA can give you, but also on the data values that are important to you to make sure that you can undertake these tests quickly and efficiently. And I know a number of you are using TB Extreme at the moment. You also can get the benefits of these features in future versions of the tool. Oh, final one then is looking at partitions, where with the user data, we can specify our own particular values that go in that are useful to the tool under test and generate some partition-based examples, partition-based tests based on the values that we require in our user data. And you can see those data values there going into our particular tests to perform the test for us quickly and efficiently. And then my final capabilities that I'll be talking about for you today is additions that we put in, as Jonathan mentioned, for an area of testing that is becoming more and more prominent for you, which is looking at how secure your embedded systems are. So again, LDRA's deep analysis, or deep control flow analysis, gives us a very good basis to be able to look and see how secure your systems are, to be able to apply certain programming standards models, such as CERT and CWE, as well as MISRA and MISRA C++. And we can apply this to your source code under test, as well as other new facilities that we are adding in this year with the next version of the CC++ version 10.2.0. So this is part of a TB Secure capabilities in the tool, which some of you may already have, and you'll get the benefits of these additions as you get and progress and upgrade with the new versions of the tool. So for security, we're looking at security vulnerabilities. Where are the potential vulnerabilities within your code? And the tool will look at things like the CWE top 25 list of potential vulnerabilities in software as determined by the industry body, MITRE, and we can then take the LDRA's analysis and apply those top 25 specifically to your code under test. So it's very useful now at looking at what security implications you have, but what risks do they pose to your code? So whilst you're looking at the security vulnerabilities of your systems, you can focus on particular high value, high risk elements. No system is going to be 100% secure in 100% of the scenarios, but we can make sure that we focus our efforts on being very effective on how we're increasing the quality of our code and increasing the security of our code, how secure it is, by utilizing the analysis that we can provide for you. So the security vulnerability report is very useful. It's looking at the security vulnerabilities here as defined by CERT-C, and we will document them for you, and we will document where they are located in your systems, both through the number of actual violations of this particular CERT standard, and also utilizing heat maps so that you can then easily access and drill down into your source code and access where those violations are occurring. Again, this is configurable, so this will change over time as you get used to the security implications of looking at the analysis of your code, and as CERT determine different top 25 elements, you can look at that and you can track them within our system. Here we can look at the security vulnerabilities by the actual source files that we have within our system under test. So we can see here that speed.c has the highest number of vulnerabilities in our system, whereas enc.c here has far fewer. So we want to be able to put our best people on the code that is the highest risk to us. And we can spend more of our time on testing and analyzing and understanding the implications of security with these hotspot areas of code. We can also see what elements of these codes are causing the vast majority of these problems. We can see here the procedure within this code, define, has got most of the problems in there. And obviously we've got a function here within our source code under test, which is called print. So it is obviously printing out information, which will obviously be an attack vector for people if they were trying to exploit problems within your code, which is why it is very useful to have this way of very easily targeting the more vulnerable areas of the system that we've analyzed for you. And then, of course, we've got the security on summaries at the higher level, and these high and medium levels that you've got here are as determined by the CERT standard, and we document those for you. And again, you can drill into this information very easily and effectively within this update for TB Secure to be able to ensure that you are able to understand the CWE and the CERT standards that you're violating, where they are in your code, and how you can fix them. So that's the new security vulnerability report in TB Secure. We also have a security audit report within TB Secure, which looks at similar information, but looks at where the input sources are to your system and the output sources are to your system, where you're maybe vulnerabilities of having array overflows and underflows, where you're looking at maybe having problems of accessing memory, where you're using exit sources within your code, whether you have abort clauses within there. And again, the tool will document this for you and enable you then to decide if you wish to take action, and also enable you to focus on certain areas in the code. So that's the audit report. And again, this is heat mapped for you in terms of the complexity of the code and where these areas are located in terms of the amount of size of the code by source lines, the size of the code by complexity, so that you can drill down on the most insecure areas of the source code that we're testing for you. And again, this just comes for you as part of your upgrade to TB Secure. And then the final report that we've generated for you in TB Secure is a new taint analysis report. And the taint analysis report is where we look at how information can come into your system and where it can leave your system. And where information comes in, the various data objects within the code that you've generated may be tainted by false information. And those tainted elements might go through your system and then cause real vulnerabilities for your application as it's running on its target environment. So our taint analysis will look at these potential areas of taintedness coming into your system under test, or potentially coming out of the system under test in what we call a taint sink. And these are industry standard terms. So as you start to move into the security environment and you start to use LDRA and TB Secure to be able to see where the vulnerabilities are within your system, you will need to look at your system and see, do you have any problems with variables being tainted with false values or tainted by being an attack vector for a hacker? And the tool will help you to trace where these potentially tainted variables and data objects will flow through your system and the problems that they may cause for you. And this is excellent information from a static analysis capability, but also you can use LDRA's tools to combine the power of static analysis and dynamic analysis through unit testing and system testing, WCET analysis, and also code coverage to be able to make sure that you are making your code as safe and as secure as possible, as Jonathan mentioned in his presentation. So here we have potential taint sources. In this particular example that we've analyzed, we're using fopen and we're accessing sockets. We also have taint sinks, where we have potential areas where information might come out from our system under test. It might be getting written to memory through malloc or memcopy, and where that is being undertaken under the source code. And because LDRA does a deep control flow analysis of your source code, we can then trace these variables, these potentially tainted variables, through the calling chains, through the functions, and ensure that we can understand the impact of any potential taintedness with those data objects. And again, we should be able to utilize the tool to be able to see how complex those areas of code are, see if we have any CERT or CWE violations within those code. Have we tested the code through maybe unit, module, and system test? Have we stressed the code? Have we put the code under robustness tests? And we can utilize TB Extreme and TB Extreme Plus to do that as well. So you can see how all of these capabilities feed into each other with the power of the analysis that we are very excited to put into the tool suite for you. Because at the end of the day, we need to be able to empower you to be able to create safe, secure, and reliable code that is fully tested from requirements down to low-level tests, and also that we can test to see, are we adherent to international standards like MISRA-C, CERT-C, C++, CWE as well, and can we show that we have all of the documentation and the evidence that we need to present to certification authorities or to our internal audit groups to show that the code and the processes that we've generated are suitable and acceptable for the purpose that they are required for. So there's quite a lot of new facilities that we put into LDRA. Final report there, we have the taint sinks here with the access of malloc and where they get called within the system as well. Quite a lot of extra capabilities that we put in if I go back to my original slide. So we talked about TB build import, if you remember right at the beginning. How do we set up the analysis within LDRA? We've looked at TB justify. How do we document where our coverage through defensive programming might not be 100%? We can document when it isn't, and we can decide to count that as covered if our test process allows us to do so. We also have the WCET capabilities to enable us to see, is our code suitable to work in a multi-core processor environment. We have additions to TB Extreme Plus to enable us to stress test our code within a sophisticated robustness environment. We can look and using and applying the latest versions of the MISRA-C and C++ standards. MISRA-C 2023 is now out. MISRA C++ update will be coming later in this year. We are working with the rest of the MISRA C++ committee on that. And we also have this LDRA Vault capability to enable us to document all of these facilities appropriately for our certification authorities. And it's very exciting for us at LDRA to be able to do these things for you. As Jonathan showed you in his presentation, our customers do very many really exciting things, from automotive, industrial controls, aerospace. They help keep us safe with our military and our defense that we rely upon in the world these days. And we're able to be very proud in how we can help you to improve the processes that you have. But it's also worth noting that we're always interested to talk to our customers and to our colleagues and friends at Moasoft to see what other challenges you have, what else can LDRA do to make your lives easier in what is a challenging and difficult world of software testing throughout the software development lifecycle. So hopefully that's given you an introduction there in terms of what LDRA can do for you. Thank you very much for listening. I don't know if I'm only 3 minutes late, so that's very good for me. Normally I'm much later. So thank you very much for listening. Kamsahamnida, and speak to you soon. Thank you. Okay.